All right, YouTube, my name is KarQ. I haven't actually done a live recording in a while, so stream is here to say hello. Don't get distracted by the emotes. Focus on what's on this side of the screen, because what we have here is something called the Hero Statistics page, which was introduced new in Season 18, so last month, where they do live pick rates and win rates. So we can truly determine what is the best hero to play, or what are the best heroes that are performing with the highest win rates at all tiers of ranks, on all regions. You can even filter by map. Don't go to quick play, just look at competitive. You can even check console, which is controller, and filter by role. So it's a true insight into the data, into the game. This is true public knowledge on all the players. Previously, you would have public fan sites like Overwatch, which would scrape Battle.net accounts on the website, but those were only non-private profiles or only public profiles. It wasn't a true grab, but it was a decent sample size. But what we have here in front of us is the true one. So at the beginning of Season 18, we took a look at it 1 week in to see what was strong early in the Season 18 patch. The mid-season 18 patch was last week, so now we had a week for it to settle in. Let's see what has been good and what has been bad. So what we do know that was good was Hazard, and he got nerfed this recent patch for the tanks because he was the best performing tank, or one of the top performing tanks. And so far, PC players, if we take a look at bronze players, small percentage of people, but you can see this pick rate is a little low, but you start seeing a lot more Reinhardts and Junker Queens, and they're usually the top performer. You want to look for heroes that have a pretty high pick rate to show their popularity. Ones that have super low pick rates are probably a bit more niche, and there's not a lot of hero specialists that play at that rating. So the stats aren't as, what's the statistical term when there's not enough sample size, I suppose, right? In any case, a lot of people love playing D.Va in low ranks, but I think they just kind of don't know the effective range of D.Va, and they just sit there with Matrix, but then they're just a big warm body to shoot at. So I feel like she doesn't perform very well on average, but overall, if you're a bronze player, you could probably just pick Reinhardt and Sigma and be fine with it. Mostly Reinhardt though. Sigma's at 50%. Ryan is probably your best bet in bronze. I'm gonna skip a couple ranks. I'll do one at the bottom, one in the middle, and one at the top to get a better feel for it. I don't even think gold is the middle. I think platinum might be a better sample. For the tank role for mouse and keyboard, the majority of players are going to be performing pretty well on ball if you're a ball specialist. Again, Wrecking Ball has that new adaptive barrier major perk, which is not a parry. We found out in the Mythbusters on the main channel, it is actually basically an immunity shield. So you can block Earth Shatter as Wrecking Ball for your team. You can block ram punches. You can block sleep darts. I say block, but I mean like nullify. It's just bing for 1.5 seconds. You are immune to all the CC and stuff. So Ball can be out of control if you know how to play him, but he's definitely not a hero you just pick if you've never played him before, because he's quite hard. But Ryan, still very successful. Where's this Ryan propaganda coming from where Ryan has ass? That's probably the high ranks, because you'll see when I pick Grandmaster or Master and Champion, Reinhardt's win rate is no longer at the top. He's kind of in the middle of the pack, around 50%, right? The one thing I want to point out is Junker Queen here. Junker Queen makes an appearance here, and Zarya. Well, Zarya is actually not too hot here, but I did see Zarya at the top when I glanced at this yesterday. We'll save that for a bit. But Junker Queen is going to be a solid pick. Ryan is a solid pick for your average plat gold player. Doom as well, and these are your top four. Once it hits the 50% and below, this is where things aren't as spicy, but you know, it's not to say that the hero is bad, but you know, that's how it is. Oh, hey, Winter is in the chat. Winter is actually one of the ones that helped develop this, right? Can I ask you right now, how recent is this data? Is this from the mid-season patch, or is this a season average, which includes the first patch plus, oh, you didn't help develop it? I'm looking at this data, but I kind of want to know if this is, because you know how like Hazard had a really high win rate for the first 4 weeks of the season, and then the mid-season patch hit, and he probably didn't perform as well after the nerfs. But like, is that still averaging the first 4 weeks, or is it taking it from the recent patch? I don't truly know if it's a true live update. So if it's possible to clarify, that would be really nice. So I look like I'm also not spitting out of my ass. I thought it's like live and it updates. Yeah, but we don't have like a filter like by last week or by day. Oh, wait. I just scrolled down and it frequently, like, I had an FAQ and I'm sitting here yapping, and I could have just scrolled down and found my own answer. This patch, what patch is this data from? Data showing the tables collected from the beginning of the most recent patch. Well, that solves that. Thank you. So this is true, up to date, doesn't add up everything from the beginning of the season. Anyways, in your average platinum gold ranks, you're gonna see Ryan and Junker Queen are probably safe picks. Wrecking Ball and Doom, if you know how to play them, pretty strong on this patch for your average player. Grandmaster and Champion has a really small sample size. So you're gonna see some pretty outrageous data because there's a very few people who play in this rank regularly, so the sample size is really low. That's why I don't like looking at it, but if you just want to take a quick look, face value, Zarya, top pick here. Now let's look at Masters, which would be a much better sample size. This is where I mentioned Zarya being really good, especially on America right now on PC. So Queen, Zarya, Sigma being close to 51 around the middle of the pack, and then Wrecking Ball not as hot anymore. Hazard took a big hit. Hazard was one of your top performers last patch, got nerfed in the mid-season. So the takeaway point that I've seen so far, America's tank, Junker Queen, Zarya, and Reinhardt in the lower ranks. And then your top ranks in Masters and Grandmaster, Reinhardt falls flatter to 50%. Then your Ryan one tricks and Ryan players. We have a couple of Ryan players in the chat be like, yeah, Ryan's always bad. But he's not always bad. Ryan is fine. You just can't pick him everywhere, unfortunately. We have Asia, Bronze. More Doomfist players here. But Asia and Bronze is going to be still Zarya doing pretty well. Platinum, Queen showing up again. Doom, Sig. Winston makes a nice appearance because Asia loves dive and Winston. Hazard's doing pretty solid, but Zarya pretty high. One of the highest pick rates, actually. The highest pick rate in Platinum with a moderate win rate. And now let's take a look at the top here. Let's look at Masters. Zarya at the top here with the win. This is filtered by win rate so far. Lower pick rates for Sigma and Queen, but doing pretty well. Winston, your top tank in Masters, performed really well. So like regionally, the popularity or the pick rate changes, which does affect the win rate, but you can see how this region likes to play it. And now we have Europe. Now let's take a look at Europe in Bronze. Of course, Reinhardt, best win rate. Platinum, Reinhardt, by far best win rate. Europe loves Brawl. They live to their stereotype. Okay, doing really well. Queen as well. Doom, and then Sigma right at the 50% mark. Nothing to ignore, of course. It's still a pretty significant playtime, but right around 50%. Your takeaway point is Ryan, Queen here, and some Doom. And then Masters, best win rate is Queen, Sigma, Zarya, Ball. And then Ryan still doing pretty well here in Masters. So on PC, if you're a tank player, across all regions, the takeaway point is it feels like Junker Queen, Zarya, Sigma are staple picks. Depending on your region, Ryan and Winston is really good, so therefore you can probably play those heroes and get great value. Wrecking Ball and Doomfist are fine if you practice those heroes. They're always fine picks. The heroes that don't perform as well are the ones I didn't mention so much, so not very much Ramatra, not very much Orisa, not very much Diva, Mauga, not even Roadhog. I know a lot of people were yapping about Roadhog after his midseason buffs, but he's not like overperforming. I think a lot of people are trying to, like, his pick rate shot up again once they rebuffed him, but he's kind of like, you know, he's still a big target, and if you're gonna have those games where the hogs are just not hitting every hook, and then they just kind of fall flat, right? So anyways, takeaway point, Queen, Zarya, Sig, Ryan, Winston seem to be the best, with the occasional Ball and Doom if you know how to play them. Now let's take a look at console. We have our Bronze players in console. I would assume Ryan Diva actually ends up doing much better in Bronze on console than mouse and keyboard. Wow, look at this. Diva's at a 46% win rate on PC, but on controller, Diva's at a 52% win rate with an absurd pick rate. What makes Diva that much more annoying on console? Oh, Diva bombs maybe in Bronze. They can't react to it. They're like, nerf this. And then their whole like one sensitivity ass is just turning around like this and trying to figure out where to go. Maybe I'm also underestimating Bronze players. I feel like some of them have a good head on their shoulders and maybe they're just not, you know, gaming at their highest potential. Oh, everyone plays projectile and aim. Oh, that's right. Aim assist is very powerful on console. So like Diva just deleting that with Matrix ends up being inherently more valuable. That's a good point. I guess the same with Reinhardt, just being able to hold the shield and just block a lot of the shots. So Ryan's performing pretty well for your average Platinum player. Ball, if you're a specialist. Queen is here. Doom is here. Diva. So Diva ends up rising quite a bit on consoles. That's the takeaway point I can see here. Everybody else is below 50%. And then in Masters on console, Mauga. Wow. Shoutouts to Mauga here. I guess he becomes more unkillable here. Once you hit Masters, you have a lot of Ball players, surprisingly. Queen is doing great. Ryan, Diva. Hazard is solid. Doom. Okay, so I guess the consistency is Ramatra is not great. Winston is not loved by controller players on Americas. All right, let's look at Asia on console. Sigma being the top in Bronze. Diva performing okay, but Orisa, Ram, Ryan, Wrecking Ball all around the above 50%. Let's go to Platinum over here. The best win rates are Ball, Queen, Sigma, Diva, Ryan. Then it goes below 50% here. And then for Masters for Asia, a lot more Sigmas on Asia. So PC Asian players love Winston. Console Asian players love Sigma. Diva and Mauga seem to be very popular on console as well, is another takeaway point. Let's check Europe just to be sure. Bronze, we have Queen, Zarya, Ryan, Sig, Diva, and Doom rocking the positive win rates. In Platinum, we have Ryan, Doom, Diva, Ball, Junker Queen, and Hazard, with Sigma getting kind of close. And then in Masters and above, Diva at the absolute top with Mauga. So when you conclude all three regions, the takeaway for console is Diva and Mauga across all three regions are your outliers. Cool insight. Now let's move on to the damage heroes, and let's start with Americas, because that's the region I play on. Let's go back to mouse and keyboard. We have Reaper. Reaper apparently has been doing really well in the top pro play circuit right now in OWCS. Not surprised that Reaper does well at bronze as well, because he's a very low skill floor hero with easy, durable value. If you can't play Tracer and Genji, Reaper is a great alternative if you're not a great hit scan player. And if you're a bronze player, I mean, Reaper is super forgiving, super easy. Same with Venture, doing really well here. Sim, of course, is a specialist. Nobody shoots at turrets, will always be good. I'm actually surprised at how well Genji is doing. This is a surprising one. I assume Torb would be really solid, but Genji being picked this much and doing that well, very cool. Platinum, Genji still your top pick and your top win rate. I'm not gonna lie to you Genji players, the Genji community, not saying you specifically, you Genji player watching this, you're like, what do you mean? I don't complain, but like there's a loud Genji community that likes to cry a lot when a small nerf happens, okay? And there's a whole meme with better nerf Genji. At the end of the day, I don't actually really care, but I just find it very comical that like Genji's literally been good. Almost like all of Overwatch 2. And like the smallest nerf of 2 seconds of deflect, they lost their minds. I think in the last like patch video in the comments when we put Genji got 2-second nerf on deflect, they're like, I'm so worried about this nerf. They killed the hero. And I thought they were being like saying it as a hyperbolic. They're saying like that. They're saying it as a kind of like tongue-in-cheek joke, but I felt there's something about the way they said it and the tone that it felt like they were serious. That the hero was dead because they lost 2 seconds on deflect. And I'm like, dude, relax. And now he's still top dog for your average player. This is the majority of you guys. Tracer still doing amazing. Reaper, again, super popular, super safe. So Genji, Reaper, Tracer for your average player in America is popping off. Moderate pick rates down here. The bigger takeaway is Ashe and Hanzo doing pretty well with really good pick rates as well. Soldier 76, actually really popular here. Same with Cassidy, but wow, they are not... Soldier okay, but Cassidy is really performing poorly. Same with Sojourn. Now in Masters and above, Reaper, like I said, being meta in high ranks is very interesting. I can't remember the last time he's been that popular, but he's picked in OWCS. He's very safe, very good. Tracer, always a staple pick here. Genji with an absurd pick rate, not as high at 54%, but still a positive win rate before the nerf. Solid hero. So your takeaway points are to play Reaper, Tracer, Genji, maybe Soldier if you're not comfortable in the other two. Hanzo as well, doing okay, like that's totally fine. Sojourn, and oh my god, dude, Cassidy being a crazy pick rate and a terrible win rate is interesting to me. All right, let's see if this holds true in the other regions here. Let's take a look at bronze from the beginning. Of course, Symmetra, Venture, Reaper. Genji's doing just great. Let's look at your platinum. We have Symmetra as your specialist on certain maps. Genji performing great in Asia as well. Reaper, Venture, Tracer. Yup. Is Cassidy poor down here too? Yes. Holy shit. Same with Europe. Yup. Genji doing great. Top win rate DPS. Reaper, Tracer, top 3 picks here by popularity. Hanzo doing middle of the pack stuff. Same with Ashe. Same with Soldier. And then Cassie, big pick rate, terrible win rate. Masters, Reaper. Wow, Reaper's 56%. That is very high. Very good. Tracer, Genji, of course, extremely popular, doing really well. Soldier, middle of the pack. Hanzo starts falling off quite a little bit more. And then at the bottom, we can see Sojourn and, of course, Cassidy. Man, guys, they're going to buff Cass next patch, and they're going to be like, why would we buff him? He's so strong. But, like, you have to kind of sort of balance it based on objective data plus player perception. The player perception is that Genji is weak and he needs buffs and never nerfs, and the player perception of Cassidy is that he's always solid and he's annoying because of hinder. But it looks like he's not doing really well at all ranks. Crazy stuff when you take a look at it under the hood. Now let's look at console really quickly, starting from Americas. Absurd, almost 60% for Symmetra. Symmetra Torb console running the show with Reaper as well. And Bastion, oh my god. Your console Bastions in bronze. All right, Platinum, Reaper, Genji, Tracer, Ashe. Ashe played a lot more on console, probably because of the aim assist and Zim. Lots of Torb as well here. They're performing really well. Still a decent amount of Soldier. Cassie, not as poor here. Sojourn is pretty popular, but doesn't do too hot here. And then I guess for Masters in Controller, we have ourselves Tracer being great. Ashe with a lot more hit scans on console. I really do think it's that aim assist then. Very cool. Reaper doesn't perform as well as, you know, Masters on PC, but, you know, aim assist OP. Cassidy, bad here as well. Let's quick glance at Asia. Symmetra at the top. Builders, nobody shoots turrets in bronze. Junkrat makes an appearance here with a pretty decent, high pick rate, with a good win rate. Let's go to Platinum. Symmetra, Reaper, Torb, Tracer, Venture, Genji, Ashe. Let's see if Cassie's at the bottom. Yes, he is. And finally, we're in Masters in Asia. We have Symmetra at the top as a specialist on certain maps. So the pick rate's a little low. Same with Widowmaker. I'm sure these are only picked on certain maps when they get voted in, but Tracer and Reaper seem to be well-rounded into all. And Sombra makes a top 4 appearance and top 4 win rate on Masters Asia. Coordinated console Sombra EMP plays. Okay, I see you. Hit scans like Ashe and Soldier do pretty solid. And Cassidy at the bottom. Okay, let's look at Europe console. Of course, Torb, Sim, Reaper. Nothing out of the ordinary here. This is basically the same. Let's look at Platinum. We have ourselves Ashe, Genji, Reaper, Widow. Where's Tracer is not as popular in Europe here. We go down, lots of Soldier 76. Very cool. Cassie does a lot better on Europe. And finally in Masters, Ashe, top pick here. Ashe being a top pick in Europe is very interesting, comparatively speaking to Ashe being an 11% pick in Asia and Masters being 18% in America. But in Europe, it seems like Ashe is 23%, which is really high. Soldier, all the hit scans are always very high because of, I guess, the aim assist, all that fun stuff. But anyways, we look at the objective win rates. Ashe, Tracer, Reaper, Soldier. These are the ones with significant playtime. And Genji. Top players, bottom of the list, Cassidy, Sojourn. Finally, let's move on to the supports and then we'll finish the video off. Okay, this is my main role. Let's look at PC support players. I'm just going to have to assume it's going to be Wu Yang at the top everywhere because he got a slap on the wrist for the mid-season patch. Me personally, I played a lot of Wu Yang this season. This hero is absolutely a beast right now. Not me in bronze, but I have a feeling that if he's good at all ranks, he probably needs nerfs. Like, let's just be real here. Anyways, Wu Yang with a good pick rate and a good win rate. Lucio as well, doing solid in bronze. Brig, pretty small sample size, so hard to say, but still doing pretty well. Zen, Ilari, solid, and Mercy and Moira sitting at 50% with an insane pick rate. Always pretty good. Now, the ones with a high pick rate and a poor performance is someone like a Kiriko or a Lifeweaver. Not too hot in bronze, unfortunately. Let's take a look at Platinum in the middle of the pack. Wu Yang, 57%. Absolutely outrageous. Probably needs nerfs, but yeah, he is your outlier. Lucio is at 53%, solid. Mercy doing really well this patch too, at 52% for your average player here. Zen always pretty good. Ilari always here, and then everything else is below 50%. Ana being extremely popular, same with Kiriko, but slightly underperforming a little bit, and Lifeweaver being a pretty poor pick, same with Moira. And then in Masters, Wu Yang jumps up like absolutely crazy, 57% still, then the next high is at 52, so he is truly the outlier. Wu Yang is your best support by far, along with Lucio. So Lucio Wu Yang was a pretty popular brawl comp with Hazard and OWCS for a while. This is a pretty strong combo. Ilari doesn't have a best pick rate, but she seems to be consistent with the plus 50% win rate at almost all tiers and all regions. I would like to say it's probably because of her solo carry potential. This is ranked play, not coordinated pro play. The easiest way to win in ranked is to just kill the opponents. It sounds stupid, but as a support, I know it's your job to heal, but like enabling people and killing them yourself and just eliminating the enemy lets you just win the game way easier than healing somebody and waiting for the person that you heal to hopefully do something enough. So if you can just do the damage yourself, you can have higher impact on average. And it seems like Wu Yang showing that's the case here. Big ultimates that kind of swing the fights here. Mercy was really good though. Anyways, Ana, Kiriko. It feels like Ana just kind of, she has big impact and can do everything herself, but she has a lot of vulnerabilities. And it seems like Kiriko also is not performing really well. But we all know Kiriko is a great team fighter, but there's a lot of Kirikos who are not like optimal, and then they miss a lot of kunais when they're like trying to heal, or they just miss a lot of the papers. So it just feels like they kind of fall flat on their feet when they are on the back foot. Next, we go to Asia. Outlier, Wu Yang. Wu Yang, Zen, Ilari. They do much better with Ana, Kiriko, and Asia and bronze though. Let's look at Platinum. Wu Yang at the top, 58%. Ana, much better. I think Asians just play Ana better. I'm sorry, guys. Jesus, 53% pick rate? That might be the highest by far. Anyways, the biggest outlier by far is 58%. 51% is not even that insane. It's all pretty like middle of the pack. It can go either way, but this is your true outlier right here, Wu Yang. And now we have Masters. Wu Yang, 44%, 59 point, dude, nearly a 60% win rate is absurd. My God. Ilari, like I said, just carry by shooting, but everything else here is close to 50, so it's kind of give or take here for this, but that's your outlier. Ana does better here though, for sure. I think maybe in Asia, since they play with Ana a lot more, they protect her and all that fun stuff, but yeah. Lifeweaver is not great here, and it seems like not great in all places, in all regions as well. All right, finally, let's look at Europe here. In bronze, we have ourselves Wu Yang at the top, 52%, but this is bronze, right? It can go either way. Take a look at Platinum, Wu Yang at the top, 20% pick rate. Mercy with the really high pick rate doing pretty well. Ana's still pretty fine at 49%. but it starts to dip pretty poorly here with Lifeweaver and Moira being at the bottom once again. And then in Masters, Wuyang at the top, 56% win rate, high pick rate. I had a feeling that Wuyang, Lucio, and Illari are great. Like Lucio actually probably has an absurd win rate when you play any sort of control, flashpoint, or even like push because of how mobile and good he is on those maps. But he's just an overall good hero that gives you that speed boost whenever like and can like assassinate people and do things himself. Like Lucio is great if you know how to play him. Wuyang obviously really good, but Illari, like I said, probably because she just kills people. And eliminating them is the easiest way to win. I think, again, Mercy being one of the highest win rates here is surprising. And I'm trying to think, who is this Mercy pocketing on this patch that is like making this so effective? Because like the top 3 DPS picks in the average ranks or high ranks was like Reaper, Genji, Tracer for the most part. And like they're the ones that are doing well. And you don't really need a Mercy in those comps. But then again, who's playing perfect comps in your average rank game? You just get those random hit scan players, and if the Mercy happens to be playing with them, then suddenly they win a lot more. But if you're playing, I guess, non-Mercy comps and you still force the Ashes and the Cassidy's, and then you start losing as much. Or what if the Mercy is pocketing Wuyang? You know what? That poke might be a little lethal. Lifeweaver and Moira being at the bottom seems to track. And that's the takeaway point here, guys. At the end of the day, support on PC seems to be dominated by Wuyang, Lucio, Mercy with good pick rates and solid win rates, with Moira and Lifeweaver being pretty poor, pretty bad at the top. That's not to say if you're not good at the heroes, you can't play them, but they are on average at the bottom. Wuyang, Lucio, Illari, Mercy at the top on PC. Let's take a look at controller really quick. America's bronze players. I had a feeling that Moira and Mercy were going to be the top and most popular, but it seems like Brig also really gets great value. And honestly, like I know people will say, controller's harder to aim, but like, you know, Wuyang, even with his aim style, still doing really well here in bronze. Same in silver, or sorry, same in platinum. Controller, like it feels funky at first, but honestly you kind of get used to Wuyang's aim style pretty fast. It's not even that hard, and it's such a forgiving projectile, super easy stuff. And then Moira's win rate just starts falling off a cliff here, bottom 3, however, with a really high pick rate still. But here's our outlier, Wuyang. If this guy doesn't get nerfed, I mean, I love Wuyang, but he's probably going to get nerfed. There's no way. This is like an obscene outlier. Maybe there was more crazier outliers when the stats weren't public for other heroes in the past, but this is the first one we get to see with our very own eyes. I was very surprised that Wuyang got the slap on the wrist. Like honestly, looking at this is what it looked like last patch too. When I did this 4 weeks ago, I was like, dude, Wuyang's just topping the charts everywhere. And he just came out. All his damage is in the splash. It doesn't feel like he's cheap when you play against him, but it's just, he just does 120 or 100 damage a pop, and you're just like forced to back off and not take space because he just applies so much damn pressure and just wins off that, you know? Okay, then we have Mercy doing really well. Wow. Very, very good. Mercy's probably do better on console because like obviously with all the extra Ashes that we saw and hit scan players on console with aim assist, and maybe some farm, Mercy probably dominates on console as well. But yeah, Mercy does really well here. Baptiste getting a crazy amount of play rate here, a lot more than I expected. But Illari, Lucio, Wuyang, Mercy, great. Bottom, Lifeweaver, Kiri, Moira. Asia, bronze, Wuyang at the top. All right, skipping over. Let's speed up here. Wuyang at the top. Lucio, Illari, Zen, Lifeweaver, Kiri, Moira at the bottom. And then in Masters on Asia console. Oh my God, it's the first time Wuyang was not number 1. It's Illari with Wuyang. Lucio's close to 50%, but still really solid. So Asia loves Baptiste. It seems like Baptiste is very popular in this region. That's a cool takeaway point here for Asian console players, with obviously Moira. Brig being at the bottom here is actually very interesting. That's another takeaway point. But Kiri, Moira, Lifeweaver are at the bottom. Okay, in Asia, and let's go to Europe really quick for bronze. Europe, bronze. Europe loves Moira. There you go. Brig, super small sample size, but Zen doing well. Illari, where is Wuyang? Wuyang being 7th on the list is crazy to me. That's also a first here. But I'm pretty sure once I go to Platinum, he should jump to the top. Wuyang, Lucio, Mercy, Illari. That's what we saw earlier. Lots more Baptiste in this region as well. And then finally for Masters on Europe controller console, Wuyang, Illari, Mercy, and Brig. Like, oh my God, see, Brig doing really well here in Europe. But in Asia, 44% win rate. Does that, so you can't just look at a region and be like, wow, this hero is bad. Once you look at it across all other regions, the data is not really the same. This is a really good win rate and really healthy pick rate for Europe Masters console. So I can't even like isolate that and be like Brig is bad or Brig is good. Like this region specifically, these guys like Brig and they're playing it really well in these comps. Maybe Baptiste has played a lot more, maybe Brig comps. I don't know. Wuyang, Brig, maybe that's working out for them. But overall, what's more to say? Wuyang, 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 Mercy, Illari, Lucio, and then some selective Baptiste, Brig, etc., etc. But those are your top 4 support picks. So that's the meta breakdown for the midseason patch. Do we need another overview? Probably not. Actually, let's just do it really quick if everybody skipped to the end. Tanks, go ahead and play Queen, Zarya, Sigma, Reinhardt. Those are probably your best picks. If you're a good Wrecking Ball or Doom, you'll be just fine as well. Or a Winston, that's fine as well. Everybody else is not doing too hot. Occasional Maugas and Divas, depending on the region and thing you play on, but your top 4 picks are probably Queen, Zarya. Top 2 picks are probably Queen, Zarya, if I had to choose. Those are safe. Now we go for the damage. It's gonna be Reaper, Tracer, Genji. 3 top safe picks that do really well across all ranks. The ones that are not doing too hot are Cassidy. Those are your top 3. If you just want a hit scan, easy hit scan, Soldiers seems to be stable. Hanzo is stable, Ashe is stable, with Sojourn and Cassidy being actually at the bottom of the barrel. You know what I wonder that actually lowers the win rate is a lot of people will default to Cassidy when they're already losing the game, when it feels like there's a lot of CC, like a Wrecking Ball or Doom is owning them, and then they'll pick Cassidy and then just start pulling the win rate down simply because they're just using that as a crutch for the hinder when they were already going to continue to lose no matter what, and they're not playing him the whole game. So maybe that's why. It's not like when you're losing, you suddenly just be like, I'm gonna play Genji. A lot of people just switch to Cassie as a counter when they're already on the back foot. Does that make sense? Maybe that's adding to it. This is just my analysis. And again, for the supports, we just went and talked about it. It's just Wu Yang, Lucio, Illari, Mercy as your top 4 with a couple of other picks are always all great, but the ones that are just over not performing pretty well at the higher ranks is just Lifeweaver and sometimes Moira. Okay, and that's your breakdown for the mid-season patch. Thanks for listening to me yap. What do you guys think?